Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. I got sued by an entitled mom. After that, Karen damages my mom's car and blames my mom. Her cop boyfriend covers it up and ruins both of their reputations. And after that, giving an employee the new truck he asked for. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen will lose in court. So please smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And huge shout out to our newest channel members, Bob Beatbox and Pokemon Ranger Kellen. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Become a member today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. I got sued by an entitled mom. We've got me, we've got the entitled passenger, we've got entitled mom, we've got other driver, my awesome lawyer for my car insurance, and other passenger's lawyer. So back when I was 16, it was a month or so after getting my license. I was leaving school and in traffic, just the very slow, move a car length at a time on a street not designed to be that busy, 15 miles per hour tops. I dropped something and stupidly glanced down for a second, and in the process, my foot lifted off the brake some. Bump. Crap. I could see that I hit the car in front of me. I got out, the other driver and his passenger got out. Nothing looked bad, save for a 1-inch crack in the top of my bumper. We agreed to pull ahead into a parking lot. From there, we called to get a police report. Thankfully, other driver wanted to. It was non-injury and nothing serious, so the police asked us to all drive to the station. We did and filled out a quick report of the incident. All were friendly, and other driver and seemingly entitled passenger were friendly, and no hard feelings. Other driver's car was assessed for no damage, and mine had no internal damage, so I glued the crack. Other driver and I even had a class together, and he was friendly with me, said he had a stiff muscle in his neck, but nothing bad and was totally cool. Entitled passenger and I did not have any classes and didn't interact much, but would pass in the hall and no out of the ordinary interactions. I did not think much about it after that and was just more careful while driving. Lesson learned, luckily, at the minimal cost other than a higher insurance rate for a while. Fast forward 5.5 years. I get a call from my insurance saying that entitled passenger and entitled mom were trying to sue me for damages and injuries. They were awesome about it and already had an in-house lawyer working on my case. I met with her and went over my story and details. She told me the case looked bogus and stupid and that there was little chance of this going anywhere. We did have to do a dissertation. They were suing me for injuries incurred in the accident and for all the physical and massage therapy she had treated him for over the past 5 years. Something like $200,000 worth they were claiming. I sat in the lobby of the other lawyer's office with Awesome Lawyer and went over how it would go, then went up to start. We were in a large conference room, Awesome Lawyer and me on one side of the table, a court reporter on an end, and other lawyer on the other side. Entitled parent had not arrived yet, so we all just chatted. Turns out I was going to the school other lawyer attended, and we had a nice chat. When entitled passenger walked in, me, Awesome Lawyer, and other lawyer were all laughing together, and he had such an annoyed look on his face. Note, I dressed very professional in a suit. He wore jeans and an old shirt. We were sworn in legally before we began. It started with Awesome Lawyer asking entitled passenger questions about the situation and details, which he recalled very few of, and it had a lot of, I think, I don't remember, and possibly. He talked about how much his injuries hurt him getting jobs, and how great his mom was for allowing him to be under her medical treatment. It was all very vague, and a lot came up about how his mom didn't have good records of his treatment, and how she was not even a licensed therapist. Awesome Lawyer also asked him about how the medical record from his visit the day after the accident showed 0 injuries from it, and how the police statement he made and signed did not match what he was describing now. He did not have a good answer. After that, other lawyer asked me questions, and I was able to recall details of the day and the scenario, all of which were confirmable by the police report and our statements from that day. After we left, Awesome Lawyer told me she had a hard time not laughing about how crappy his case was and why the heck other lawyer would even bother to take it. I got a call a few days later that they settled outside of court for about $2,000, cheaper than going to court, and from what I was told, essentially just covered the entitled passenger's lawyer fees. Not super dramatic, but at the time, it was an intense feeling because I was getting sued, even if it was absurd. I learned a lot from it about keeping good records of things and that car insurance covered a lawyer. Edit. I forgot to mention that I was told the statute of limitations on that kind of thing was 6 years, so this came up right before it was up, conveniently. I looked up the court records just to see things. He has had this sort of lawsuit, suing somebody for an incident years later, with 2 other people, and from what I can find in public records online, all ended similar to mine and around the same time. The same lawyer too, for him. Also, he had to go to court / pay a lawyer to go to court to get the points dropped for traffic tickets. Karen damages my mom's car and blames my mom. Her cop boyfriend covers it up and ruins both of their reputations. For some background, I live in a predominantly white suburb town in New Jersey, and my family is Asian. Although the town is alright for the most part, it is not really a secret that some of the townspeople discriminate. One of our neighbors, let's call him Anthony, is a retired police captain from another town, but he is friends with my town's police chief. My mother is a first-generation immigrant, and although she's fluent in English, she still has a pretty thick Asian accent. A couple of years ago, my mom went to visit one of her friends on the other side of town. My mom had parallel parked directly in front of her friend's house, which is at the bottom of a small hill. As she was leaving, a woman driving a Jeep Wrangler with her kids was driving down the small hill, but she was still a decent distance back, so my mom pulled out of her spot. The road they were on was really wide, with enough space to fit 5 cars next to one another, and about 40 feet ahead was a stop sign. My mom at this point was already in the middle of the road, fully out of the parking spot, and had gotten about 10 feet when the woman driving the Jeep suddenly came up from behind my mom's car and cut directly in front of her, crossing a double yellow line to do so. Because of the angle she cut my mom off at, the Jeep's rear wheel ended up ripping off my mom's front bumper. My mom naturally immediately stopped, and the woman got out of her car after straightening it out on the road. As soon as she stepped out of her car, this woman, we'll call her Karen, immediately starts yelling at my mom at the top of her lungs. Karen told my mom to call the police, but my mom told her that her phone had died. My mom's friend and her son, as well as the neighbor, came out of the house after hearing the commotion to see what had happened. The neighbor, an elderly man, asked what happened, and Karen yelled, "Are you blind? An accident happened. Go call the police. I need to call my boyfriend." The son had taken a law class in college, so he offered to take a bunch of pictures of the scene of the accident and send them to my mom later. This becomes super important later. The neighbor calls the police, but Karen's boyfriend arrives at the scene first. When the cop, let's call him Kenny, finally arrives, he asked my mom what happened. Just as my mom had started saying her side of the story, the cop says, "Wait just a minute," and walks over to the boyfriend. As it turns out, the boyfriend, we'll call him Sam, was a cop in the town who was pretty popular with the kids in the middle schools since he would occasionally visit to talk to them about things like DARE and other things in assemblies. Sam was off duty at the time, so he was able to come over when Karen called him. As soon as Kenny saw his bud Sam, he immediately went to go talk with him rather than with my mom or with Karen. They discussed for a little while and afterwards sent everyone on their way. My mom tried to talk to Kenny before he left, but Kenny just brushed it off and said he got the details he needed and that my mom would be able to get the police report in about a week or 2. When my mom receives the police report, she saw that it said that she pulled out without using her blinkers suddenly and hit Karen's car. On top of that, Karen was expecting my mom's insurance to pay for the damage done to her rear wheel. My mom went to my neighbor Anthony to ask what she could do about the report since it was clearly wrong. Anthony was furious and told her that she should go to the police station and ask to see the chief, and if they ask why she needs to see him, she should tell them that it's because she wants to file an internal complaint. That day, my mom takes the photographs sent to her by the son and goes to the police station and asks the person working the front desk to see the chief. The cop says that she could not just walk in and ask for the chief, so my mom responds, "Okay, so where should I go to file an internal complaint?" And the cop immediately straightens up and says, "Right here, come with me." He leads her into the back. The deputy chief steps into the room and started recording the conversation. Since the chief was out, my mom presented all of the evidence to him instead. After presenting the evidence to show that it was in fact Karen that hit her instead of the other way around, My mom also says that she would like to file a corruption complaint against both Kenny and Sam. Kenny clearly did not do his job properly since he did not properly ask the actual people involved in the accident and did not even note the fact that there were 2 passengers in Karen's car in the report. Even Karen later admitted to an investigator that Kenny never once spoke to her. My mom even threw in the race card for good measure, saying maybe Kenny wouldn't listen to her and brushed her off because of her thick Asian accent. Sam, meanwhile, had interfered with the investigation despite not being at the scene of the crime during the time of the accident. The deputy chief says he will start an internal investigation and will see if anything needs to be done. Meanwhile, my mom also filed a claim to her insurance and presented the evidence to them too. And her insurance decides since the accident, in their eyes, was clearly not her fault, they weren't going to pay Karen a penny and that they would contact Karen's insurance to pay my mom instead. A lot of internal bureaucratic investigational BS happens, including interviews with Karen, my mom's friend, and the friend's neighbor. About a month passed, and an officer comes to our house to tell my mom that Kenny had been punished, but there was not enough evidence to punish Sam, and he just wanted to know if there were any other concerns she had. Since Karen seemingly had not done anything to further warrant any action and the damage to her car was paid for, my mom said that there was nothing else. This is the fun part. 3 days after the officer came to our door, a letter came in the mail for a court hearing. Turns out, Karen decided to file 3 tickets about my mom just 1 day before the statute of limitations. Apparently in New Jersey, citizens are allowed to file complaints about other citizens breaking the law, a thing that our family had never heard of before until this happened. And because of how late she filed these complaints, by the time we received them in the mail, we could not even counter-complain, and the only options were to pay the fine or to go to court. We assumed that Karen learned about being able to file a complaint from Sam, and that the only reason she was willing to go this far is because she heard my mom had a super thick Asian accent and assumed that my mom wouldn't know what to do about the tickets and would just pay up. What she didn't count on was the fact that my mom is actually really aggressive with an absolutely massive network of people that she knows. Within a day, my mom hired a lawyer to fight the case, and they immediately asked to change the court from the small court in our town to one of the large courts a couple of towns away. The logic was that if she fought the case in our town, my mom would be at a disadvantage since her case was essentially going against our town's beloved police force, but by putting it in a different town, the playing field would be even. Additionally, while my mom worked from home in her own business, Karen had a full-time job in town, so going to court in a different town would be a huge pain in the butt for her. The lawyer had prepared a huge amount of evidence against Karen, so there was no way she was actually going to win the case no matter what. Come the court date, Karen never showed up, so the case was thrown out. That was a pretty nice win, but what came after was even better. Since my mother and sister have a lot of friends in town, the story of Karen and Sam doing this shady BS got out really fast. Soon, half the town had heard about it, and suddenly Karen and Sam went from 2 favorites in the town because of Sam's reputation to 2 of the most underhanded and nasty people. Sam stopped getting invited to school assemblies, and Karen was ostracized in her kid's school's PTA. Anthony also ended up talking to the police chief in private, and we later found out that although Sam was not officially punished, he was severely reprimanded by the chief. Giving an employee the new truck as he asked for. Hello, people of Reddit. My friend who works in construction told me this story, and I thought that I'd share it as it's super funny. So for your information, this happened in 2015. When the company had ordered 20 new fleet trucks, they were going good for everyone, except for this guy. We'll call Bert. He somehow kept damaging the newer trucks. When he damaged his second truck, the supervisor kept complying and giving him a new truck as he asked for. Meet everyone. We've got Bert, we've got the supervisor, and the mechanic. So to get into it, my friend tells me that at the company he works for, everyone is loaned a company truck. They are responsible for making sure that the truck is okay and that everything is going smoothly. When repairs are needed, you take it to the company mechanic, and they take care of things. The supervisor handed everyone a key to their new truck, and it went like this. Supervisor: Hey everybody, I'm sure as you saw today, our new trucks came in, so everybody line up and get a key to your truck. Everyone gets their key and goes forward with their work week. Then Bert comes to the mechanic with his truck, and he said, It's feeling sluggish. Mechanic said to Bert 25 minutes later, Well, figured what is wrong with your truck? Bert: What's going on? Mechanic: apparently you damaged the drive shaft." "Oh, wow. I wonder how that happened." Now, mechanic in his report said that there was a lot of dirt under the bay of the truck. Since they are new, mechanic made the assumption that he likely went off-roading and damaged it. The company had 2 new spare trucks. Bert apparently came into supervisor's office and said, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Wait, what happened to yours?" "The drive shift is damaged." Supervisor: "Okay, well, we have another truck you can borrow until yours is fixed. Just be more careful." Bert, with an unappreciative tone, said, "Fine," and later drove off. 3 days later, a AAA flatbed delivered his loaner to the yard. He apparently snapped the front left axle and sustained some bumper damage to the truck. Supervisor is mad. Bert then comes into the office and tells supervisor, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Yeah, I see," pointing to the flatbed with the truck on it. So supervisor gives him a new truck as he asked for, a 1989 Ford F-150. Bert: "This truck isn't new." Supervisor: "Yeah, it's new to you. Why can't I have a newer one?" Supervisor: "Well, you've damaged your first 2. You are an extreme liability for us right now. Just be happy that we're giving you something." Bert, looking dissatisfied, says, "Fine," and drives away. 5 days later, the clutch was shot on the '89 pickup, and the thing is, the clutch on the truck was fine. It was inspected before it was given to Bert. So now mechanic and supervisor were suspicious. Bert then came to supervisor's office and said, "I need a new truck." Supervisor: "Yeah, I heard." Bert walks over to the last new truck on the lot. Then supervisor says, "Follow me to the back lot." Bert follows. Supervisor then proceeds to take a tarp off of a 1977 Ford F-150. The supervisor says to Bert, "Here is your new truck." Bert looked disgusted, but he had to take it because supervisor wouldn't let him have one of the new trucks until this was fixed, and paid to fix the clutch on the 1989 truck. Needless to say, Bert never broke his truck again. As the yard had an even older 1969 Ford, Bert probably realized that if he didn't shape up his driving, that he would once again get a new truck. Also, Bert had a lot of experience in construction, so that is one of the reasons why he wasn't fired until 2 years later. Crazy lady demands I let her brat pet my dog. My dog Bones is a rescue and has survived multiple dog attacks before I adopted him. As a result, he dislikes other dogs and will nip at them if they get too close. So he wears a bright purple muzzle and is decked nose to tail in bright signs that all say something along the lines of "No dogs" or "I need space." Story time. I live in a small city in the northeast US where neighbors rarely talk to each other, and I rarely have any issues with other people about Bones. It was my day off, so I figured it would be nice to get out of the house and go to the park to train. We get to the park and, it being at the end of times and all, everyone and their mother is out. It's fine. I find a secluded corner of grass, lay down Bones' mat, and start working. We're having fun, and no one has bothered us up to this point. I'm laughing, and Bones is jumping up and down for treats, when suddenly a little voice screams, "Doggy!" Bones loves kids, but he's also very excited and might jump on them, so I immediately stop and tuck him away so I can hold him in place and start looking around for the kid. A little kid clutching the leash of a little poof of a dog is waddling towards us as fast as their legs can take them. No parents in sight, and I'm panicking. "Wait, wait!" I cry, waving one of my hands in front of us. "Stop! Where are your parents?" This itty-bitty kid only sort of speaks and stops a few feet away from me, babbling and pointing in random directions. From between my knees, Bones lets out a booming bark and strains forward. The little kid isn't fazed, but the dog with her launches its tiny self at us, barking up a storm. Bones also loses his mind, barking back. Now the girl is crying, the dogs are screaming at each other, and still no parents anywhere to be seen. Hey, hello, somebody help, please. I start to shout because I don't know what else to do. People are staring at us. Nobody is helping. I finally wrestle Bones to the ground and kneel over to him, when finally a woman shows up and scoops up the girl into her arms, dropping the leash in the process. Little dog bounds over, barking and trying to nip at Bones' nose. I'm so busy trying to get little dog away from us while also holding Bones down that I don't pay any attention to the mom and her daughter until I hear an ahem. I glance up. "Please get your dog," I practically beg. Mom reaches down and puts her baby down and scoops up little dog with one hand, the other coming to rest on her hip. "My daughter wants to pet your dog," she says, like nothing has happened. Incredulous, I gesture helplessly at my squirming dog, and I slowly come back to standing, still holding Bones between my knees. "He isn't friendly," I say, when the point doesn't seem to be clear to the mom. "No, she has dogs at home. She just wants to pet him," Mom insists. Baby is closing in on us, and I try to get back up, but moving is difficult with a 75-pound dog in between your feet. "No, ma'am," I say. "He isn't friendly. She cannot pet him. I'm sorry." "Oh?" says Mom, looking at him. "Is he a service dog?" Now, Bones' vest with all of his patches does kind of look like a service dog vest, but I think it's very clear that we are not a service team. "No," I repeat, pointing at his muzzle. "He is not friendly. If he's not a service dog, then my daughter should be able to pet him. Go on, baby. Give him a pet." Now, call me a bad owner if you will, but I gave up. Her kid was right there and already smacking Bones with her hand. I just grabbed his face and held it away from her and waited for it to be over. "See, that wasn't so bad," Mom said, and then she leaned down with little dog still in her hands and pet my muzzled dog. "No!" I yelled, trying to pull back, but Bones lunged forward, paws outstretched, and punted this woman in the chest. Mom fell back, yelling. Little dog jumped away and ran at Bones. Baby is crying again. I managed to get Bones on the ground before he steps on little dog. "Oh!" cries Mom, like she's on a soap opera or something. "Oh, bad dog, bad dog." She reaches down to, I don't know, smack Bones or something. "Stop!" I scream at her. "I told you he isn't friendly. Please just take your dog and go." Mom kicks at the grass in front of us, grabs her daughter and her dog and stomps away. I sit on the grass, crying, trying to gather my stuff as quickly as possible and book it back home. I was so scared the entire time, waiting for the cops to stop me or something. Yes, I know, I was being dramatic, but I was really scared. A few people threw me sympathetic glances as I ran from the park. Entitled Elderly Lady Regrets Calling Cashier Stupid. This actually happened a while ago, but I thought the community would enjoy it. So, for some important context, I had previously worked in a grocery store whilst deciding what to go to school for. That didn't exactly feel obligated to repair things that needed it. This is important as the tills we use daily would not function how they were supposed to sometimes. The tills were normally programmed to audibly notify you with a buzz or a beep whenever an item failed to go through, followed by a visible notice on screen. A number of our tills had given up the duty of notifying us with sound. In comes this elderly lady with somewhat greasy hair and quite the stubble. She had a pretty heavy order, which wouldn't normally be a problem if our tills had did what they were supposed to. I realized while she was distracted that an item at the beginning of the transaction hadn't gone through, which meant that nothing else I had scanned after said item went in either. I cringed, dismissed the message, and tried to inconspicuously begin the order all over again, hoping she wouldn't notice. Because this happens quite frequently, and trying to explain it makes you feel like you're trying to lie your way through it, and I didn't like feeling like that. Unfortunately, she noticed. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just rescanning these items. This kind of thing happens sometimes." "What kind of thing? Overcharging your customers?" "I'm not overcharging you at all. See, when one item fails to go through..." "You already scanned those. Why are you scanning all my items twice?" Each time I had attempted to explain the situation, she wouldn't understand, or give it time to understand for that matter, and took a step back into accusing me that I was double charging her for items. I'm not, ma'am. I attempted to show her the screen, but apparently proof doesn't matter much when you've already committed to a negative behavior, and now you have to be right. "How ridiculous. This is pathetic," she went on. "I can't believe this crap. Nobody knows how to do anything these days." Before this altercation, she asked, or more likely demanded, 2 cartons of cigarettes, which, of course, we were out of up front, which meant I had to wait for someone to bring them up from the back. I'd like to point out that I never do well with pressure or hostility, so I'm very uncomfortable waiting with this lady, instead of continuing the order so I could send her on our way. I get the cartons, and she's acting like I have no idea what I'm doing, and verbally makes me feel like I'm useless and incapable. All while I am surprisingly acting like everything is okay, like she's not making me feel like a terrible employee, and even smaller of a person, when actually I was scared and upset. I didn't want it to get any worse than it was. It was at this brilliant moment that she turned to the person behind her and confidently uttered, "Isn't she just stupid?" The person behind her was my mother, here to pick me up at the end of my shift. My jaw physically dropped and my expression morphed into an unavoidable gaping smirk. Good things come to those who wait, I guess. My mother looked at her, and keeping her cool, she said, "Well, I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose. And considering how I gave birth to her 20 years ago, no, I don't think she's stupid." This lady, you could see the alert in her eyes. She didn't say another word during the transaction and practically flew from the store after that. I think the funny part was, I saw my mom there previously, and I was trying to hint to her that something was wrong. She knows my body language, and this old gal did it for me. I guess it serves as a lesson not to bring other people into care and drama when you have no idea who they are. And shoutouts to our regenerals of the day, Addie, Random Dude, Zoe, and Mikono. Become tomorrow's regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.